My name is Irma Auger. I'm 30 years old, and the first time my mother asked me to give away my home, she said it with the voice she uses for church announcements: calm, bright, and impossible to argue with. People tell you a home is just drywall and deed numbers until you sign for it yourself, until you run spreadsheets at 2:12 a.m., cross out takeout for a month, and tell yourself you can live with the cabinets another year because interest rates won't. My two-bedroom in downtown Seattle isn't huge, but on clear mornings the windows sketch the skyline so close I can touch it. It smells like coffee and code. It sounds like keys at night and the elevator's soft bell when I get back from late pushes. I wrote my first big promotion acceptance email at the kitchen island, started sourdough during the weird winter everyone did, and cried in the hall on move-in day because the kid who used to borrow public Wi-Fi outside a library had a title, a badge, and a place where every lock answered to her. I'm a software engineer. 15 to 25 was ramen, freelance gigs, and sleeping with my laptop on top of the blanket like a pet that could pay rent. 4 years ago, I landed at a major tech company. 2 years ago, I bought this apartment. The mortgage hurts, but it's a pain I chose, the good ache after a climb. My younger sister Scarlett is 26 and newly engaged to Marcus, boastful, charming, and between careers for the entire 18 months I've known him. Scarlett teaches kindergarten. She is earnest and soft-spoken and has always been the family's glowing lantern. When we were little, if I brought home a robotics trophy and she brought home a ribbon from Art Day, our mother arranged the mantle so the ribbon caught the light. On Sunday, my parents, William and Eleanor, asked me over for a family discussion about Scarlett's future. I grabbed a nice bottle of wine because I still live in the hopeful country where family discussion sometimes means cake. The living room hasn't changed since the year they replaced the carpet and called it a remodel. My father cleared his throat the way he does before he talks about bank products. My mother folded her hands, cathedral serene. Irma, my father began, you know how much we value family loyalty. I smiled and felt my shoulders tense. Of course. And that loyalty, my mother added, sometimes looks like sacrifice for those at the start of their journey. Scarlett's engagement photos beamed from the bookshelf. Her in a blue dress, Marcus in a blazer 2 sizes too smug. What are you asking? I said, even though I already knew there was a bullseye somewhere near my mortgage. My father stood, gestured at the mantel where the family story sits in frames. My first day at work, Scarlett's graduation, the vacation we took when I was 12 that I mostly remember for the library we found when it rained. Your apartment, he said gently. It would be a beautiful wedding gift, a true beginning. You're single, you have an excellent income, and you can easily rent something that suits you. The words were clean, polished, and unthinkable. My apartment, I repeated slowly, as a wedding gift. Not just the space, my mother said, face brightening as if she was unveiling a nursery paint color. The stability. It's different for a young couple. They'll need the security, the address, a place to build a family. I set the bottle of wine on their coffee table. The sound it made was too loud. Mom, Dad, I put $150,000 into that down payment and renovations. I still pay the mortgage. The mortgage can be transferred, my father replied, already prepared. Or, for a time, you could continue paying it as part of your gift. Think of it as an investment in your sister's happiness. It's not an investment if the return is watching someone else live in my home, I said. My voice came out flat. That's a subsidy with a bow. Don't be selfish, Irma, my father said, and somehow the room went very quiet. I laughed. Rude, unladylike, electric. Selfish? For not giving away the biggest thing I've ever earned? We didn't raise you to be so cold, my mother murmured. And there it was. The old script. The one where I'm rational to a fault. Where spreadsheets mean I don't love. Where saying no proves I wouldn't bleed if you cut me. I left before the wine was opened. In the car, my phone lit up. Evan calling. Evan is my boyfriend. We've been together a year. He designs physical products, the kind of puzzles you can hold in your palm. The first thing I noticed about him was how he listens, like he's solving a shape without forcing it. Hey, he said, how bad? Ambitious, I said. They want me to gift the apartment to Scarlett and Marcus. He whistled softly. That's not an ask, that's a siege. I told him about investment and happiness, about my mother's cathedral voice, about the smooth way my father said transfer. They've been rehearsing this, Evan said. People don't roll out vocabulary like that on impulse. I don't want to fight my family, I said. Then don't, he replied. Hold your boundary. Let them fight a wall. That night, my mother texted long strings of disappointment and hope. My father emailed think pieces about communal cultures and adult children gifting forward. Scarlett wrote, "Mom and Dad said you might help with housing. That would be amazing." Help with housing is a phrase with furniture hidden inside it. Sofa, bed, keys. I typed, deleted, typed again. Scar, I'm happy to help with a normal gift, but I'm not giving up my apartment. She didn't respond, which said more than if she had sent 1,000 crying face emojis. 2 days later, my mother asked to meet, to discuss calmly and work out the details. Against my better judgment, I said yes. We picked a bright restaurant where every table holds a negotiation someone thinks is casual. When I walked in, a woman in a sharp suit sat with my parents. She had a leather portfolio, a tablet, and the polite smile of someone who's professionally seen worse. "This is Patricia Coleman," my father said, like a maitre d' presenting a souffle. "She specializes in family property transfers. She'll make sure everything is done properly and fairly." "You brought a lawyer," I said. "A facilitator," my mother corrected. "Patricia has helped so many families with generous transitions." "Ms. Auger," Patricia said, standing, "I'm here to explain options, nothing more." "Did they tell you," I asked, "that I haven't agreed to anything?" Something flickered across her face, irritation at being used like a stage prop. I may have been given the impression there was family consensus. "There isn't," I said. "This meeting is over." "Irma," my father said, "you're making a scene." "No," I said softly. "I'm stopping one." Patricia gathered her things with the efficiency of someone who's rescinded invoices before. She gave me a look, not pity exactly, something like respect at the clean slice of a boundary. Outside, the rain felt like someone shaking a jar of pins. I stood under the awning and let the prickling calm me. My phone buzzed again. Evan. "Well?" he asked. "They brought counsel," I said. I brought the word no. "Good," he said. "Keep it." I thought of Scarlett in her classroom kneeling to tie a shoelace and telling a 6-year-old to use inside voices. I wondered what she thought about fairness when none of her scissors cut evenly anymore. I thought of Marcus ordering cocktails he couldn't afford and tipping big with other people's money. That night, my building's lights winked at me, like the city telling me a secret I already knew. The higher the view, the more wind you take. 2 hours later, Scarlett called. The crying started in soft waves. "I don't understand why you're being cruel," she said. "We just want to start right." "This isn't about right," I said. "It's about ownership." "You have so much," she whispered. "We have nothing." "You have jobs," I said. "You have options. You have time." "So you'd rather sit alone in your fancy apartment than help your sister?" The last word was a blade. "Yes," I said, because truth sometimes needs the shortest sentence. "I would rather keep the home I worked for than give it away." She hung up. At 1:03 a.m., my mother posted something on Facebook about some children appreciating sacrifice more than others. I typed and deleted 1,000 responses that would only audition me for a role I never wanted. At 7:42 a.m., my phone pinged with a calendar invite from my father. Next steps for property transfer. I declined it. Then I stood in my kitchen and realized my hands were shaking. I touched the wall. "You're mine," I said, and felt foolish and fierce at once. On the counter, Evan's spare key glinted in a dish. He'd given it to me last month with no speech, just a half smile and a "for emergencies." I turned it over in my palm like a worry stone. Boundaries aren't fences you build once. They're doors you learn to lock without apologizing. My parents want a door they can hold open for someone else. I'm still learning how to keep the handle on my side. The next day, my mother texted. "Lunch went well with Patricia. We can be efficient when you're ready." Ready for what? The building concierge waved when I came home, his palm hovering in the air like he wanted to ask a question and thought better of it. "Everything okay, Miss Auger?" he asked finally. "Ask me tomorrow," I said. "I'm learning the price of a home." And I knew, because the city had gone very sharp around the edges, that the ask wasn't a moment. It was the opening offer. After the ambush lunch, I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. It was just the rehearsal dinner for the real war. For 3 days, the family group chat went silent, a digital calm before something ugly. Then the messages started again. My father sent polite reminders about revisiting our family plan. My mother sent Pinterest links for wedding home ideas, and Scarlett sent a voice note so sweet it could rot teeth. "Irma, I know things got tense, but Marcus and I were talking, and we think it'd be such a special full-circle moment if we started our married life in your place." The apartment's already filled with love from you, and you'd be a part of our beginning. I deleted it before it could finish. The words were pretty, but the subtext was bruised. You owe us your success because we watched you climb. That night, Evan came over with Chinese takeout and 2 bottles of cider. He watched me scroll through their messages. Do they think you're running a foundation? He asked. I think they believe generosity scales with square footage, I said. He leaned back on the couch. You ever notice how people talk about family right before they do something unforgivable? I looked at him. You sound like my therapist. Maybe you need both, he said softly. One for talking, one for holding your line. 2 mornings later, I got a knock at my door. It was my building concierge, Carl, looking uneasy. Ms. Auger, he said, you might want to check this out. He handed me a thick envelope. Inside, mail addressed to Marcus Kellerman, care of my address. Credit card offers, a car insurance renewal, even a rental application. What is this? I whispered. Started arriving this week, Carl said. I figured it was a mistake. My heart sank. It wasn't a mistake. It was a setup. Marcus was using my address, probably for job applications, or worse. I texted Scarlett. Why is Marcus using my address on mail? Her reply came fast. He needed a stable address for some forms. It's just temporary. Don't make it weird. Temporary. The word echoed like a lie in a hallway. That evening, I called my parents. No answer. Then my mother replied with a simple text. We're proud of you for starting to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture. That's what they called it. The slow theft of my life wrapped in a ribbon of righteousness. The next week, I was working late when Carl called again. Ms. Auger, I think you should come downstairs. My stomach dropped. Why? There's a man here with a moving truck. Says he's your brother-in-law. Wants to move in some wedding gifts. I felt the world tilt. I don't have a brother-in-law, I said. That's what I told him, Carl replied, but he's insisting. I could hear shouting faintly through the phone. Marcus. I told Carl to call the police. By the time I reached the lobby, Marcus was gone, but not before telling security. Irma knows. It's family business. Family business. That's what mobsters say before they bury a body. The next morning, my father was waiting outside my office building. He stood by the revolving doors like a ghost in a business suit. Irma, he said, stepping into my path, we need to talk. No, we don't, I said. You need to stop. You're making this harder than it has to be, he snapped. Scarlett's health is suffering. She's losing sleep. Marcus is under pressure. Marcus tried to move into my building with a truck, I said. Pressure isn't the word. My mother appeared behind him. You're overreacting. He was confused. Confused doesn't come with a U-Haul, I said. Lena, my father began. It's Irma, I cut him off. And we're done here. The security guard at the door noticed the tension. Everything okay, Ms. Auger? He asked. No, I said. Please escort them out. My mother's eyes filled with tears, the kind that shimmer but never fall. How could you humiliate us like this? She whispered. You did that yourselves, I said. When security guided them out, I swear I saw my father's jaw trembling with something between rage and disbelief, like he couldn't comprehend that his daughter, the quiet one, had grown teeth. That evening, a new envelope arrived at my office. Letterhead, Thompson and Ward Family Law. I skimmed it once, then again, not believing the words. Your parents are exploring legal options regarding equitable distribution of family assets and constructive trust claims on your apartment. They were arguing that I'd received unfair advantages in my youth. A $3,000 coding camp, 6 months rent-free after college, and a 10-year-old Honda. Total, $13,000. Their claim, I owed them $600,000 worth of equity for it. I sat frozen. The printer hum of the office faded into a buzz behind my ears. When Evan arrived that night, I handed him the letter. He read silently, his jaw tightening with each paragraph. They've gone nuclear, he said. You need an attorney. I already emailed one, I said. A college friend, property law specialist. Her name's Catherine Chen. He looked at me. You okay? No, I said honestly, but I'm awake now. Catherine called the next day. Irma, this letter is nonsense, she said. But nonsense can still cost you peace. I'll send a cease and desist. If they escalate, we'll file for harassment. Then she paused. By the way, you should check your mortgage account. Someone's been making inquiries. What kind of inquiries? The kind that require your social security number, she said grimly. And they listed Marcus's name. I felt my heart lurch. That's fraud. Yes, she said, and now it's evidence. That night, I changed every password, froze my credit, installed security cameras in the apartment, and for the first time since moving in, I locked every deadbolt and double-checked every window, twice. When I crawled into bed, Evan texted, "Proud of you for fighting back. But be careful. Some people only understand boundaries once they hit a wall hard enough to bleed." I didn't reply. I couldn't, because deep down, I knew he was right. This wasn't about an apartment anymore. It was about power, and they'd just declared war over who owned me. It's strange how silence can be louder than shouting. For almost 3 weeks, my phone didn't ring. No guilt texts, no calls from Mom, flashing like a warning siren. I wanted to believe they had finally accepted my boundary. But silence in my family is never peace, it's preparation. I was at my desk one Friday morning when Catherine called. Her tone was clipped, businesslike, but I could hear the undercurrent of disbelief. "Irma, I just received notice from your mortgage lender. Someone tried to add a co-borrower to your mortgage, Marcus Kellerman. They provided his social security number and even a fake authorization letter with your signature." I blinked. "He what?" "Fraud," Catherine said. "And I've already contacted their legal department, but you need to be aware, your family's crossing into criminal territory." I sank back in my chair, feeling the floor tilt beneath me. How is this even real? Catherine sighed. When entitlement meets desperation, reality becomes optional. That night, I printed every message, every document, and every email since this started. The pile on my coffee table looked like a file for a small war. Evan came over after work, carrying groceries and calm. He glanced at the stack. "That's not a folder anymore, that's evidence." I nodded. "I'm starting to think my family sees me as a bank with legs." He touched my shoulder gently. "They're trying to make you feel like a villain for owning what you earned. That's not guilt, that's control." He was right, but logic doesn't drown out shame. It just keeps it from swallowing you whole. Sunday morning, Carl buzzed my intercom again. "Ms. Auger, your sister's here." My blood ran cold. "Scarlett, she's not allowed up. She said she left something here, a wedding binder? She's insisting it's important." I almost laughed. "She's never been here with a binder. Don't let her in, Carl, please." He hesitated. "She's upset." "I bet she is," I said, "but tell her she'll need to call my attorney." A few minutes later, I watched from my balcony as Scarlett stormed out of the building, mascara streaked, phone pressed to her ear. I didn't need to guess who she was calling. My mother's text came 20 minutes later. "How dare you humiliate your sister in front of strangers? She just wanted to retrieve her things." I stared at the screen, every word pulsing with manufactured outrage. Their pattern was always the same: violate, deny, then accuse me of cruelty for noticing. That evening, Catherine called again. "The fraud report has been filed," she said. "There will likely be a police interview. You did the right thing documenting everything." "Are they in trouble yet?" I asked. "Not yet," she said carefully, "but they've definitely stepped into dangerous ground." Then she paused. "Irma, I looked into your parents' finances. Public records show they recently took out a $50,000 home equity loan." I felt my stomach knot. "Let me guess. Wedding expenses?" "Partly," Catherine said, "but $30,000 of it went directly to Marcus. There's no paper trail after that." The line went silent except for the faint buzz of fluorescent light above me. "So they mortgaged their future," I whispered, betting I'd hand over my present. The next week, things escalated again. Emails from extended relatives started flooding in. "Why can't you be supportive?" "It's just a house. You'll regret tearing the family apart." Aunt Rachel even wrote, "You can't take it with you, sweetheart. Be generous while you can." Generous! As if I hadn't already paid Scarlett's rent twice, or covered her car repairs, or bought her graduation laptop. Generosity wasn't the issue. It was ownership. Then one morning, a small box arrived at my office reception. No sender name. Inside was a framed photo, me and Scarlett at the beach, maybe 8 and 12 years old. On the back, a sticky note in my mother's handwriting. "Family is forever. Stop acting like it's for sale." Evan saw it that night and frowned. "That's not persuasion," he said quietly. "That's psychological warfare." He wasn't wrong. The sweetness of the photo only made the threat more poisonous. The wedding was now 6 weeks away. I hadn't received an invitation, but gossip travels faster than forgiveness. From my cousin Lisa, I learned that Scarlett and Marcus were bragging to guests about moving into Irma's condo after the ceremony. "They even printed your address on their RSVP cards," Lisa whispered over the phone. "It's insane." I laughed, sharp and hollow. "Guess they're getting the honeymoon suite confused with a felony." Lisa hesitated. "Be careful, Irma. Uncle William's been saying you promised to help and then backed out. Everyone thinks you betrayed Scarlett. I didn't promise anything, I said. I know, Lisa said gently, but they're rewriting the story, again. 3 days later, Catherine called, with news that chilled me. Your father tried contacting the mortgage company again. He said he was acting on behalf of the family and requested Marcus be added as a co-owner. That's it, I said. I'm done. Good, Catherine replied, because we're filing for restraining orders. All of them. Parents, sister, Marcus. It felt surreal, restraining orders against my own family. But when people treat your boundaries like open doors, sometimes the law has to install the locks. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching city lights bleed into the dark water. I thought of my parents' house, warm light spilling from the kitchen window, the sound of my mother's voice calling us to dinner, my father carving roast chicken while telling us that family means everything. Back then, I believed him. Now I knew he meant as long as you're willing to bleed for it. I whispered into the wind, you can't trespass with love. And for the first time, I almost believed it. By the time summer rolled around, my apartment felt like a fortress. The cameras blinked quietly in each corner. The locks had been changed twice. And even my mail went to a P.O. box across town. It was exhausting, but necessary. Because every time my phone buzzed, my stomach clenched. Catherine kept me updated. The fraud report was active, the restraining orders were processing, and the mortgage company had flagged my account for unauthorized access attempts. My parents had officially crossed the line from manipulation to crime. Then, one gray morning, Catherine called. Her voice held the steady calm of someone used to telling hard truths. Irma, the judge approved the restraining orders. Your parents, Scarlett and Marcus, can't come within 500 feet of you, your home, or your workplace. It's enforceable today. I let out a shaky breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me, Catherine said. Just stay alert. People like them don't accept consequences. They look for loopholes. The next few weeks passed in tense quiet. For once, no new letters arrived. No calls. No family emergency messages. I even started sleeping through the night again. Then Lisa called. Her voice was hushed but vibrating with gossip. You're not going to believe this, Irma. The wedding's still happening, but it's not the big event anymore. The fancy venue canceled because your parents' loan didn't clear. They're moving it to the church hall. Good, I said flatly. Maybe humility is cheaper per guest. Lisa laughed, but then her tone shifted. You're still not invited, by the way. Mom said you're toxic energy. Toxic energy, I repeated. That's a new one. I'll add it to my resume. But something inside me twisted, because as much as I'd built armor around my life, the thought of being erased from theirs still stung. The wedding day arrived with the kind of irony only the universe can script. Rain. Of course it was raining. I stayed home, curled on my couch with coffee and my laptop, trying not to check social media. But around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Lisa again, voice trembling from equal parts shock and adrenaline. Irma, you won't believe what just happened. What now? I asked warily. Marcus got arrested at the wedding. I blinked. You're kidding. I'm not. Right in the middle of the reception. Actually, during the father-daughter dance. A woman showed up with a police officer and said, "That's my husband." I sat up straight. His what? His wife. He's been married this whole time to some woman in Portland named Jennifer. She brought proof. Marriage certificate, photos, even text messages. The words felt unreal, like a story you'd overhear in a bar and not believe. What did Scarlett do? I asked. She fainted, like literally hit the floor. Your mom screamed that the woman was lying. Your dad tried to confront the PI she brought. And Marcus, well, he tried to bolt out the side door, but the PI tackled him in the church parking lot. Lisa's breath hitched between laughter and shock. It was chaos. The cops handcuffed him right there. Bigamy, fraud, everything. The reception turned into a crime scene. I closed my eyes, exhaling through disbelief. So that's where the family loyalty got them. Oh, it gets worse, Lisa said. Turns out your parents gave Marcus $30,000 from their home equity loan for setting up the household. He sent it to an offshore account. Of course he did, I muttered. Now your parents might lose their house. The bank's threatening foreclosure. The silence that followed was heavy. I didn't feel joy or revenge, just a kind of hollow clarity, like fog lifting after a storm to reveal wreckage you'd already suspected was there. 2 days later, my mother's letter arrived. 6 pages, handwritten in neat, slanted cursive. The first 3 were pure venom. You destroyed this family. If you'd just given the apartment, none of this would have happened. You drove Marcus to desperation. You embarrassed your sister, and you've broken our hearts." On page 4, she pivoted to tragedy. "Your father and I have lost the house. We need somewhere to stay. If you have any family loyalty left, you'll help us." I folded the pages neatly, slid them back into the envelope, and placed it in a drawer I never opened. Because some letters don't deserve answers. A week later, Catherine called again. Marcus took a plea deal, 18 months for fraud, bigamy charges to be handled separately. She hesitated. "There's one more thing. Your father called me. He wanted permission to speak with you." My throat tightened. "What did he say?" "He sounded broken," she said. "Said he wanted to apologize personally." I agreed to one call, just one. That evening, the phone rang. His voice was tired, stripped of the authority it used to carry. "Irma, your mother and I are divorcing." I said nothing. "She knew," he continued quietly, "about Marcus's other marriage. She found out a month before the wedding and pushed ahead anyway. Thought if they married quickly, it would fix itself. She convinced me to take out that loan, to pressure you harder about the apartment." I gripped the phone. "You helped her try to steal my home." "I did," he said softly. "I thought I was helping your sister. I was wrong. Your mother twisted this entire family around Scarlett's happiness, and I let her. I just wanted you to know the truth before I go." "Where are you going?" I asked. "Chicago," he said. "My brother offered me a job. It's time to start over." He hesitated, then added, "You were right to protect yourself." And before I could reply, he hung up. That night, I stood by the window, watching the city lights tremble against the glass. Somewhere out there, my mother was clinging to her crumbling pride. Scarlett was mourning a fairy tale that had collapsed in public, and my father was packing a suitcase for a life without either of them. And me? I was still here, still standing, alone, but safe. Evan came over later, quiet as always. He didn't say "I told you so." He just sat beside me, our shoulders touching, until the silence softened. When he finally spoke, it was barely above a whisper. "You lost a family, Irma, but you kept yourself. And that's the part they could never steal." I looked at him then, and for the first time in months, I felt something like peace. Fragile, hard-earned, real. The world didn't end after the wedding. It just got quiet. The kind of quiet that feels both terrifying and sacred. Marcus was in custody. Scarlett was home with my mother, spiraling between rage and heartbreak. My father had left for Chicago, a man stripped of both his authority and his illusions. And me? I was still in Seattle, sitting in my apartment, the one everyone had tried to take, watching sunlight slide across the floorboards like a soft apology from the universe. Catherine called one last time to confirm the case was closing. "Rest easy," she said. "He pled guilty to fraud. The bigamy case is moving to Oregon. You won't need to testify." I thanked her quietly. Then she said something I didn't expect. "You know, Irma, most people don't survive this kind of family implosion without losing themselves. You did. Don't underestimate that." When the call ended, I stared at my reflection in the black screen of my laptop. I didn't see victory. I saw exhaustion, and a faint kind of relief that didn't need to shout. 2 weeks later, my cousin Lisa dropped by. She's the only relative who hadn't turned her back when things got ugly. She arrived with 2 bottles of red wine, a box of takeout, and the grin of someone carrying both gossip and compassion. "You're not going to believe this," she said, kicking off her shoes. "Marcus's first wife, Jennifer, the one from Portland, she actually reached out to thank you." "Thank me?" I asked. "She said your legal mess helped her find him. Apparently she'd been trying for months. She called you a blessing in disguise." I laughed softly. That's one way to describe me. We sat on the balcony as the city hummed beneath us. Lisa filled me in on the wreckage. Scarlett had quit her teaching job. My mother was renting a small 2-bedroom, still insisting Marcus was misunderstood. My father was settling in Chicago and actually sounded happy for once. "You know what everyone's saying now?" Lisa asked, swirling her wine. "That Scarlett was the sweet one, and you were the difficult one. And now, they're realizing what sweetness looks like when it doesn't get what it wants." I looked out at the skyline, steel, glass, and quiet redemption. "I used to think being the difficult one meant I was broken," I said. "Now, I think it just means I stopped making myself small." Lisa smiled. "Good, keep it that way." That night, after she left, I took the envelope my mother had written and slid it into the shredder. The sound was satisfying, final. Each strip of paper felt like a tiny exorcism. 6 pages of guilt turned to harmless ribbons. Then I opened the old spreadsheet I'd made years ago when saving for the down payment. The Future Goals tab still listed Austin transfer, optional. I stared at it for a long moment, then smiled. By September, I accepted the transfer offer. New city, new start. I kept the Seattle apartment as a rental. Catherine handled the paperwork, and within weeks it was listed. When the first tenant signed the lease, I walked through one last time, tracing my fingers along the window frame, the kitchen counter, the wall that once heard me whisper, "You're mine." "You still are," I said quietly, just in a different way. On my last night in Seattle, Evan came over with dinner and an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. He shrugged. "A gift, no strings attached, the good kind of family gesture." Inside was a photo he'd taken, me standing on the balcony at sunset, the city lights like a halo around me. Below it, he'd written in small letters, "You stayed standing." I looked up at him and something warm flooded my chest. "You think I'm finally free?" I asked. He smiled. "You've been free since the first time you said no." Austin was different, hotter, louder, alive in ways I hadn't expected. No one here knew the story. No one saw selfish daughter or ungrateful sister. Just Irma, engineer, apartment owner, survivor. I started volunteering with a financial literacy program for young adults. On my first day, the coordinator asked why I joined. "Because I know what it's like to have people tell you your success is selfish," I said, "and I want others to know it's not." I even donated the $5,000 I'd once set aside as Scarlett's wedding gift. "Let it help someone buy their first home," I told them, "and keep it." Sometimes at night, I still dream of my old house growing smaller in the rearview mirror, the light fading behind the curtains. But I don't wake up crying anymore. Because grief isn't just for what you lose, it's also for what you survive. My father calls occasionally now. We talk about neutral things, weather, work, life in Chicago. There's no grand reconciliation, just quiet acknowledgement, and that's enough. My mother hasn't called, maybe she never will, but even that feels okay. Some silences are peace, not punishment. Now, when I lock the door of my new place, I pause a moment and listen. No shouting, no guilt echoes, just stillness. The apartment smells like fresh paint and lemon soap. The air feels like ownership, the kind that no one can talk me out of. If someone asked what family means to me now, I'd say, it's not who shares your blood, it's who respects your boundaries. Sometimes I take out the framed photo Evan gave me, the one from the balcony, and remember the storm I walked through. Because that's the thing about surviving people who mistake your success for their entitlement. They teach you that peace is worth fighting for. My name is Irma Auger. I'm 30 years old, I own my apartment, and that's exactly how it should be.